Good morning, family. Tuesday morning, and we are disciples on a mission to love. We've been studying the concept and the teaching of love from a number of vantage points, but this week we're focusing directly out of First Corinthians 13. And on yesterday, I gave you the challenge to practice patient love. And as you remember, patient love puts up with anything. It endures and it deals with all of fallen humanity's different issues and extreme behavioral deficiencies. And it does it in a way where it still manifests the nature of Christ. And that's the goal of loving. Loving ought to cause us to be manifest into the nature of Christ. Then in that same text in 1 Corinthians 13 at verse number 4, you see the next attribute of love. Not only is love patient, but here's your Tuesday challenge. Love is kind. So practice kind love. What does that look like? Well, patient love endures. Kind love will evidence that it's love. Patient love will put up with anything. Kind love will give anything. The word that's used there means to be useful. It means to serve graciously. In fact, Paul would write in the book of Titus, he would use it in the same way he talks about grace, where he talks about Jesus being grace manifest. He also uses it in Titus chapter 3 as Jesus being kindness manifest. And what that means for us then is that if I'm going to practice love, I'm going to manifest usefulness. I'm going to manifest gracefulness and graciousness. I'm going to manifest being a servant. I'm going to manifest servanthood in every aspect and every facet that I can. Why? Because I love you. If I love you, I'm going to be kind to you. This word or this concept of kind love ought to be seen in families and homes, especially in cases where you find yourself being frustrated because the things you want to see aren't taking place in the home like you'd like them to see. Husbands and wives get frustrated with each other. Parents get frustrated with children. Children get frustrated with parents. You get frustrated on your job with coworkers, in your neighborhood, wherever you are. There's a tendency for us to get frustrated with mankind because we don't see this blessing or this benevolent kind of spirit working in the lives of other people. Well, rather than be frustrated by it, what you ought to do is practice what the attribute calls for. Instead of expectation, you have to educate. In fact, you can't expect anything from someone with regard to how they ought to treat you if you haven't educated them on how they ought to treat you. In other words, before expectation, there ought to be some education. I'm not going to send the children. I'm going to take the children. I'm going to sit with them. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to be about it. I'm not going to demand it. I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to show you what I'm asking about, what we're expecting by way of demonstrating it to you. I'm going to practice what it means to be kind. And when we can learn how to do that, when we can learn how to manifest that character, it will prevent us from being angry about anything. Back to patience now, because we're in an active mode of showing love and being the kind of people who will demonstrate the thing that we want to see in the world around us. So how does this all flesh out then? When it comes to us being kind in our love or loving with kindness, there are four things I want to share with you in looking at the definition of this word. Today, when you practice being kind, today when you practice love with the notion of kindness behind it, first and foremost, you need to be active in the sense that you're looking for ways to be kind. One of the things that I love about this whole picture of kind love is that it's not on the sidelines. It's not waiting to show love. It's looking for where it can serve. It's looking for where it can be a blessing. You look for the areas that are in deficit and be kind there. Be benevolent. Be useful. Manifest those things that are missing in that area. So that's number one. Survey areas where you can be kind. But then number two, when you see them, serve. Don't just know I'm supposed to be kind. Be about it. Serve. Make a difference in the places where you see that there's need. If you see something that needs to be picked up, pick it up. Be kind. If you see someone that's down, be kind. Give them some encouragement. You see someone that's without, be kind. Give them the things that they need. Wherever you see the deficits are, wherever you see that you can make a difference, anticipate and do those things where you are proactive, intentionally proactive in being kind to someone else, which will help you with number 3. Show a willing spirit. Show the spirit of Christ in your desire to be kind. Back to that Titus passage, Titus 2 and Titus 3, Jesus manifested grace. He manifested kindness, and the people of God ought not be theoretically kind. We ought to be practically. We ought to be really kind. You ought to be the individual who will offer a kind word, offer a kind act, offer a kind sentiment. Even in the case where you may need to be kind by being quiet, be kind. Let me give you number 4, though. Not only are you to survey, number 1, and serve, number 2, and show a spirit of kindness, number 3, but number 4, stay in kind mode. Don't be an off and on lover like God. Be an individual who stays in kind mode. In other words, I am always anticipating that I will be a blessing to someone. Look for ways. Actively stay engaged. Don't be on the peripheral. Don't be that person who has to be nudged into doing the right thing. You be the difference that makes the difference. In other words, practice loving like the Lord. That's your challenge for today. It's real simple. Tuesday, love is kind. We ought to be kind. Love is patient. Love is kind. You ought to be useful. You ought to be beneficial. You ought to be a servant. You ought to be an individual who demonstrates and manifests kindness wherever you go. Seek it out. Serve when you get there. Show your spirit and stay in kind mode. All right? Listen, I'm going to pray for you. You pray for me. Let's have an awesome Tuesday. Demonstrate what it means to love. Demonstrate what it means to be kind. Why? Because love is kind. God bless you today.